Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Brooke. If you're new here, welcome. I am sharing a video that I'm gonna be honest, I did not realize I still had it saved. I thought I had deleted it because I filmed it right before coming back from maternity leave. And it was a great meal prep that I had done in terms of getting most everything ready for the recipes and then just finishing it the day that we decided to do that meal for dinner. And I'd never done a meal prep or anything like that, so I wanted to give it a try. I really enjoyed it. I have not done it in that grand scheme again, but I have done things similar in terms of just trying to ingredient prep a little bit more than just chopping up veggies or things like that. So I wanted to share it though. So that's why you'll see one, I did not realize how much my hair has grown since then. Granted, it was October. And then I also have on a pumpkin sweatshirt. So if you see that and are like, why are you wearing a pumpkin sweatshirt in May? That is why, because it's a little old. But I really wanted to share it because those recipes were phenomenal. I will leave them linked down in the description box below. I'll also talk about what I would do differently next time when I make them, because they were all hits, but there were definitely some things that I would rather change next time, kind of make some little tweaks, make it my own type of recipe. So other than that though, they were delicious. So I really hope you guys enjoy and maybe give you a little bit of a different idea of how to meal prep, especially if you have really busy weeks. I was going back full-time working 5 days a week. This was at my older job, so I was driving 2 to 2.5 hours a day. So really wanted to save myself some time on meal prepping, but still come home and have a good dinner for myself as well as for my family. So I really enjoyed the process. I look forward to doing it a little bit more. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. So sharing a little bit of a grocery haul to start with. This all come from Sam's. So some of the recipes we don't end up getting to in this video, and I also realized that there were some things that were cut out, but for the most part, this was all used up today. This chicken breast in a can is so good, and I am going to be sharing a quick and easy lunch or even dinner recipe that you can use with it. So watch for that coming soon, but eventually my goal will be to can chicken on my own since I'm learning how to do all of this stuff. So super excited to learn to do that, as well as maybe my own pizza sauce with the tomatoes that I'm hoping and praying will be coming out of the garden this year. So that'll be really yummy. But have some produce and some other dairy products that I got from Walmart as well. I'd never seen that habanero cheese, so that was something super exciting to see there. And we're starting with our breakfast. So for the week, we had decided that we were going to meal prep breakfast and dinner, and then, or most all of our dinner, and then have leftovers for lunch the next day. So starting with breakfast, Raymond and I, he's helping me do this part of it before I jump into doing the rest, and he has our sweet girl with him. But what we did was he had little breakfast bowls of just sausage and eggs, and then I ended up making breakfast burritos, and they were so yummy. I will say though, and one thing that I want to get more into is learning how to make more gluten-free bread. I think that's something that, of course, bread is the trend right now, and I'm glad that it is, that, we're learning to make more things like this at home, and so people are doing that, but no one makes gluten-free bread. I also haven't really looked too much, but I've also never found bulk gluten-free flour, and so I want to look and see if I can find that. But what got me on that is I had found these Mission gluten-free wraps that were very good. They were just tiny, and that was, one thing. You think of most flour tortillas as being a little bit larger, and these were kind of in between a corn tortilla and flour tortilla size. They were still delicious and still gave me as close to a flour tortilla, of course, as I'm going to get right now, but I would like to be able to get more into. I've made tortillas one other time with some corn flour. They turned out delicious. So maybe I'll do that and have a video kind of, us learning and experimenting more on making the tortillas. I know they freeze really, really well. I would love to try to make some rice flour tortillas because I've bought some rice flour ones that are in the freezer section, and those are really good as well. So that'll be nice to see. But we're also going ahead and getting a few other things started, like our rice for our stuffed pepper recipe that we're doing. I am going to leave all of the recipes in the description box below. I didn't get to making one of them, which was going to be a chicken tetrazzini in this video. So that one, I honestly have still not made it. I had planned on it and then thought I have all the stuff, I'll just make it later in the week. And then I ended up not doing that and just using my rotisserie chicken in another way. But all of the other recipes were so yummy, and it really did help out so much to have things prepped for the most part. So I'm trying to start and get things working for me. So I'm starting this rice here, like I mentioned, will be for our stuffed pepper recipe. And then I kind of just had everything laid out for what recipes we were going to be doing and what went with what. So we were making a bacon cheeseburger pot pie, which was probably my favorite one of everything. It was so, so good. It was delicious. And then the stuffed peppers, they were also very yummy, and I had a lot of the mix left over, so I ended up just freezing what I had left. Raymond really enjoyed those, so we had those that we made. And then I also made a pizza bake. It was delicious. There were some things that I would adapt and adjust a little bit for the next time that I make it, but overall it was very good. And then we made a Mexican tater tot casserole, which again, very delicious. A few things I would adjust, but very delicious overall. So it was very nice having things for the most part done either completely or having them to where all I had to do was just bake it the night of. So that was very helpful. So along with the rice, I'm also boiling some chicken here. This is going to go into the Mexican tater tot casserole. So instead of beef, like it called for, I used chicken just because I felt like there was a lot of beef recipes and just wanted to mix it up a little bit. So I'm taking and just boiling that. You can really cook this however you like. If you prefer baking it and then shredding it up, or if you prefer cooking it on the stovetop, grilling it, however you choose. Or if you decide to make it with the ground beef like it calls for, then you can most certainly do that as well. But we're just switching up and doing this chicken here, which turned out really, really great. And we really enjoyed this recipe too. I have made tater tot casseroles in the past and really liked them. I just feel like sometimes how I've made them before is using a manwich can, which is yummy, but if I'm trying to make a little bit more from scratch and just use things that I have at home, this was nice. Of course, you can make your own sloppy joe sauce and put it in there and then go from there, but I decided to completely change it up and do the chicken instead, which was delicious. I think it would be super yummy though with the ground beef, which we're going ahead and cooking up. I'm cooking up all the ground beef that I need for both of the recipes, the bacon cheeseburger pot pie as well as our other. So I have everything split up in terms of the meals that we're doing like I showed, and what I decided to do is just go ahead and cook all of the meat at once. So I've already cooked the pound of ground beef that we need for our cheeseburger pot pie. I went ahead and cooked the Italian sausage for the stuffed peppers. I also did half of a pack of ground turkey, but it was just left over from what I cooked for lunch today, so we're doing that. And then I'm also cooking some meat for Raymond. Raymond's also meal prepping his full lunches. This is all for dinner that I'm doing, but he's also meal prepping some lunches. My plan for lunch is I'm going to show you the chicken with the onions and peppers. I'm going to do that for 2 days. I did have one bowl left over from lunch today, which was the egg roll in a bowl. And then I'm just going to do leftovers the rest of the time for my lunches. So I decided to start with just doing all of the meats, and then I'm going to do, I think, all of the onions that I'll need for all of the meals. And for the most part, I'm going to try to put everything in the container that it's going to go in or going to be cooked in. For some of them, it may be a little different. We're just going to play it by ear and see, but this is the first time I've ever meal prepped like this, but I think it's going to make dinners really easy and definitely much easier than coming home and cooking the whole thing. And also easier than having to find space to freeze all of these meals. So that is the plan, and we're just going to finish cooking up some of our meat and then move on to the rest. So I was so right about how much easier this made with coming home, having most of a dinner put together, or Raymond can even pop it in the oven when I was on my way home, whatever works best. And it made it so, so much easier. And I was so happy that I did this. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I haven't quite done this to this extent since doing this video, but we've had some changes, haven't really had to, but there were some things that I took away that I have done a few things here and there. A big thing that I've also done to help prepare myself was if I was going to be in the kitchen and I was going to be cooking anyway, what I would do is go ahead and cook up some extra, either put it in the fridge if I knew I would use it before it would go bad, or put it in the freezer if I wasn't sure if I would, or chopping up extra onions right here and putting them in a bag so that next time I need chopped onions, they're in the freezer and they're waiting for me. Things like that, that if I'm already going to be in here and I'm already going to be dirtying up things in the kitchen, that I can kind of take a step off of my future self and help my future self out and make it a little bit easier for that. I've learned how simple that is, but how helpful that can be, because there is nothing like, oh man, it doesn't seem like much to just chop up an onion, but when you're tired at the end of the day, you may not want to do that, you know. And we have our specialties. Raymond is big on grilling. He loves doing breakfast. He would definitely, if I asked him to cook, he definitely would, but it's just not his thing. And, you know, that's fair enough. I'm not going to ask him to do something that he doesn't necessarily enjoy, and then other way around. And I really do love cooking and being in the kitchen and getting to just play with my culinary skills. I really enjoy that. But sometimes after a long day, that's not exactly what I want to do. So it was so nice having this set up, and like I said, just helping my future self out here with chopping some things up, putting in the freezer for later. I also saved these onion peels, and I am going to be making bone broth here soon. I saved some of the bones from a rotisserie chicken that we've had a little more recent than this video. I hadn't even watched a recipe or seen someone make bone broth with rotisserie chicken bones until after this video was made, and I thought that is so smart. But I saved, well, I guess it wasn't from this one, but the next time I did onions and everything, I saved the peels for that, as well as when I made some chicken noodle soup, I used some celery, and I saved the ends from that. I also saved the shreds from the carrots where I peeled those, and I'm going to put that in the broth as well, so that when I am cooking that bone broth, that chicken bone broth, that it will have that yummy flavor put in it as well. So I thought that was so smart that you're getting to use or get two uses out of one product. So that feels really great to be able to use those scraps for something. And I'll also share that in a video whenever I do can that for the first time. I'm going to pressure can that, and excited to try that out and show that with y'all. So now I'm just mixing together all of the components for the stuffing for our stuffed peppers. I did pre-measure out all of the spices needed for all the recipes that we're making and put them in the little tiny bowls that you see. So it was super easy to just have that, and convenient, honestly, and then to go ahead and have our vegetables prepped like this. So I did not realize it did not show, but I did go ahead and slice the peppers in half and clean those out, remove all the ribs, seeds, and everything so that they were ready to go when our mix was completely finished. So just adding this rice in that we cooked, we are using the rest of it. Raymond's using it for some of his meal prep for lunches, so he's using the rest, but we're mixing it in with all of our spices. And like I mentioned, I'll leave the recipe down in the description box if you would like to make this. This we actually made in the air fryer. So I stuffed the peppers, filled them pretty good, and put them in this dish here just to store until we were ready to make them. And I did go ahead and top them with the Parmesan cheese. We had some mixture left over, so I did put that in a bag and freeze it. It freezes great and it can be used in a variety of different ways, but it also comes back up to room temperature very well and can be used in this same process like here. So these were so good. I really liked doing the peppers in this way. I feel like doing the whole pepper and just removing the ribs and the seeds and stuffing that is just too much bell pepper for me. So this was a very good ratio of pepper to stuffing mix, and they heated up really well. We cooked them in the air fryer the first time. You can of course reheat them in the air fryer, but if you're out and about, if you go to work, you may not have an air fryer at your work. So they also heat super well in just the microwave, and they really stay good and crispy like the cheese on top. So this is delicious. This was probably Raymond's favorite of all the recipes we made. I've loved trying to fill my freezer with things like this that I can use in many different purposes or used for just the exact same purpose as we have been. So I am making sure to definitely label my bags. I did just recently purchase some reusable, I guess they're not Ziploc bags, but reusable bags like this. But any meat mixture, anything like that, I like to keep in just a throwaway bag. So we're doing that for this. But now we're moving on to the bacon cheeseburger pot pie. Like, this was my favorite. Raymond isn't the biggest fan of pot pies, so he said it was very good, but it wasn't his favorite. The stuffed peppers were probably his favorite. But going ahead and adding in some bacon that I had cooked up actually in the air fryer, and then some of our onions. I did cook those after cooking all of the meats and everything, and it was nice having that already made for both of the recipes. I did try to pick recipes that had pretty similar ingredients so that when I was doing this meal prep, it was easy to not have to do everything was completely different. So I could kind of link things together, like with the meat and with the onion. So that was super nice. So just going ahead, adding everything into the bowl. This is actually the dish that I baked it in. So I had mentioned earlier, I tried to put the foods in the dish that they were either going to be baked in, prepared in, anything like that. Of course, the exception was the stuffed peppers because I'm not going to store them in the air fryer basket. But what I did, there is a bread topping, like a crust that goes on top of this. So the day that I made this, I made up that crust and put that on top and then baked it, and that worked really well. This heats up beautifully as well. So this is what I ended up having for majority of my lunches when I did the leftovers with. So this worked really nicely. Everyone at work was asking me what it was that I had for lunch because it smelled so good. So it definitely is a win for me, and I will definitely make this one again. Next, we're going on to our pizza stuffed garlic bread pizza casserole. This one was very delicious. I will say I used this red baking dish. I do not think it needs to be that big of a baking dish. I also would do for this that I'm making right now with the cream cheese, this base, because what it is it's the cream cheese or cheese base. Then you do pizza sauce on top. Then you top it with pepperonis, and then there is a garlic bread, almost like the balls that you'll see in monkey bread. It's like that you put on the top when you bake it. It was very delicious. My only thing, and Raymond had mentioned this as well, is that it felt like the cheese mixture was a little bit overpowering. So I think this would be better in a smaller baking dish and with only half of the cheese mixture. And I would also add more toppings to it. So the only topping that I did meat-wise was pepperoni, but I think this would be really, really good to either add more meat and do like a meat lovers type casserole, or to even add more vegetables. I almost said fruits and vegetables, more vegetables to have almost like a supreme style pizza. Either way, it was very delicious, but that was my only critique with it. I did not make the dough balls on this day. I made them the day of. I actually tweaked it a little bit from what the recipe had called for, and I wanted a little bit more protein in there. So what I did was I mixed together flour and Greek yogurt. You do that and a little bit of salt, I believe it is. And I've seen people use that to make bagels out of, and it actually does really well with the gluten-free flour. So I decided to do the dough balls with that instead, so that there was a little bit more protein and it wasn't a ton of ingredients to put together to make on the day of. So I had everything prepared except for that. I just mixed that together real quick the night that we had this and added those on top. You will see this is a very cheesy recipe. It is absolutely delicious. It really is. I think the proportions, and maybe you're supposed to add more pepperoni. I added a whole package, so I thought that would have been enough. But I mean, flavor-wise, it was so good. It felt like a little bit too much cheese mixture, which is kind of crazy to say. I'm a big cheese person. It is crazy that I really could not do a lot of dairy or cheese before I was pregnant, and then after I got pregnant, and even afterwards in the postpartum, I do perfectly fine with it. So it's crazy how much our bodies can change, and it is just awesome to see. And it's also nice because now I'm not having the issues that I had when I would have dairy, lots of stomach aches. But this is fine, and this is much better. But my goal is, with Lord willing, all the tomatoes that we will have coming in from our garden hopefully this year, it will be great to make my own pizza sauce, or like marinara sauce that can be used in a lot of different ways. So that will be really nice. But for now, just pick whichever pizza sauce is your favorite. And then here are the pepperonis, just adding those on top. You can also leave those off, I guess, if you don't really want any meat at all, and just, I guess, leave the cheese mixture, and it could be almost more like a cheesy bread type thing. That would also be very delicious as well. So lots of different ways that you can really customize this casserole to your own and to your family's liking, and it really held up very well. So I made all of these recipes on Sunday, and I did not cook this one until Thursday, and it still held up very, very well. It is nice that it's in a casserole form, so it easily stored and was beautiful. So thank you so much for watching today's video. Hey, I hope it gave you some motivation for how you can kind of tweak meal planning, ingredient prepping, whatever you want to call it, for your own family and for what's going to work really well for you guys. Hope you enjoy the recipes. If you do and you give them a try, don't forget to tag me over on Instagram. And thanks so much for being here. We'll see you again soon.